When you walk through the dark, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark.
So we had spring cleanup a few weeks ago, and I was helping my dad clean out some of his old junk, and I came across this. It's an old brochure for the Maritime Beer Company. They no longer exist. They started in 1997, I believe, and this is one of the first craft breweries in Nova Scotia. It was the one that really sparked off the craft brew revolution here in Nova Scotia anyways. They only lasted about 3 years. Around 2000 they were near bankruptcy, and Sleeman bought them out, and that gave Sleeman a foothold here in the Maritimes. And Sleeman, so they started out with 5 brands of beer. Okay, they had the Halifax 1749 Stonefired Ale, which was actually really good. It had a sort of roasty character because they put hot stones in the boil, and it sort of roasted the barley, right, and gave it sort of a toasty roasted barley kind of flavor, and it was actually pretty decent beer. They had the Black Pearl Cream Ale, which was their best beer in my opinion. I think it's still sold, and I'll get into that again here in a minute. But that was my favorite of the beers. Nice creamy, sort of mild ale, nice creamy head, went down really smooth. Sort of remind me of a stout, how smooth it went down. Okay. The Atlantic Storm IPA wasn't that great. It was okay. That was back in 1997, of course, so that's back when I was still drinking Alexandra Keith's, and I wasn't really sure what a real IPA tasted like. And this sort of tasted similar to Alexandra Keith's, although it had less of a manufactured macro kind of taste to it. So I thought it was okay. It was a slightly different, slightly okay version of Alexandra Keith's, but really wasn't an IPA either, because it was only like 5.1% ABV, and it had like very little bitterness as far as I can remember. The King's Honey Amber Ale, that was actually pretty good. I remember getting that quite a few times. Not a big fan of honey beers like that, but this one was actually pretty smooth. It didn't have a lot of flavor or anything, but it was okay. It was a nice smooth drinker. Best way to say it was probably a good like session kind of beer, right? And then there was the Privateer Pale Ale. Wasn't all that good. I don't remember getting that one too much. Wasn't all that good. Okay, so yeah, anyway, that was their initial 5 beers, and they came out with one other beer a little while after that called Frosted Frog, and it was like totally out of step with the rest of the beers in the line. The initial lineup, it sort of had this maritime kind of theme to it, like ships and British Empire and the Atlantic Ocean and things like that. Frosted Frog, it had a cartoon frog, blue frog, who looked like he was drunk on the bottle, and I don't think it sold very well, especially not in like New Brunswick. Brunswick has a large francophone population, so there's sort of a negative connotation there when you're naming your beer Frog, right? French people, frogs, that sort of the old racial epithet kind of thing. So yeah, shortly after that they started to dwindle out of business, and as I said, Sleeman picked them up. Sleeman, I think they struck out all their beers except for Black Pearl. They repackaged Black Pearl as more of a pool hall kind of beer. They even had an 8-ball replace the actual pearl and the Black Pearl logo, and it looked like it was, and they didn't change the flavor of the beer at all. It was still as good as it ever was. It was like it was something. It struck me as something the Big Lebowski would drink, right, at a bowling alley, and it was really good. And I think they still make it, but we don't get it here anymore in my liquor store. I think it's still available in the city in places. Really awesome beer, I miss it. Anyway, yeah, so as I said, the Maritime Beer Company doesn't exist anymore, but they did a lot to spark the craft brew revolution in my province and basically throughout the Maritimes. Right after this, a lot of small little breweries came into prominence, started making, you know, waves here and there in the beer market, and they owe a lot to the Maritime Beer Company, even though the Maritime Beer Company itself did not last. And yeah, so that's it. I just thought maybe you guys would be interested in seeing that. Brought back some good memories from my youth. Hey guys, I forgot. Thought I'd just add a real quick note here about the Maritime Beer Company. If you're interested in seeing these beers, some of them are actually still on Beer Advocate. I believe the King's Honey Amber, 1749, and the Black Pearl are all still on Beer Advocate. I'm pretty sure Frosted Frog is on Right Beer, and some of the other of these beers are there too. So if you wanted to, you know, maybe check them out and see what they're kind of like, I don't think there's like a great deal of reviews for them because they just sort of popped up before Beer Advocate and Right Beer and stuff were really getting big or starting out, you know. So, but if you want to check those out, they are still on the internet floating around here and there, sort of lost beers now, I guess. But yeah, so I just thought I'd mention that. Okay.